A man is seen conversing on the phone with a particular Mr. Park while relaxing with a group of individuals on the beach of an unknown island. Meanwhile, the man on the beach threatens to reveal the corrupt Park Mujin because he is upset with how money was handled. However, just as a storm is about to hit the island, something from the clouds appears and attacks. Although a helicopter pilot flying over the island discovers that it has been crushed by a huge hand, Mr. Park continues with his own preparations without further interruption. In the past, when Jin Mori was a child, his grandfather nurtured him until he was old enough to start school. Mori awakens from a dream of the incident in the present. Realizing with horror that he overslept, he rides his bicycle through the streets like a lunatic. Mori almost runs over an elderly woman, but he is too enthusiastic about what is going to happen. A martial arts competition for all styles is called the God of High School. The preliminary matches are taking place in Seoul's Korja Arena. Han Dewi, who just finished his night shift at work, is among the locals who are anticipating the start of the competition. However, Miss Yumira asks a group of martial artists who didn't make the tournament for directions to the arena. She admires their strength as they admire her lovely appearance. While riding his bike all the way to the arena, Mori begins to feel hungry. He learns while traveling that yet another elderly woman has been robbed by an unruly motorcyclist. He is able to see the whole picture of her predicament and chooses to attempt to retrieve her handbag, insisting that the biker stop. Mori is able to keep up with the rider. Mori accidentally crashes his bike into Mira's face while pursuing her. The moment he tries to leave, Mira slashes him with her sword. Mira learns of the predicament, decides to pardon Mori, and joins his crusade to catch the thief. They are able to track down the biker and almost bring him in when Mira crashes into a street sign. When the biker thinks he's made it out unscathed, Dewi shows up, punches the thief off his bike, and quickly puts an end to the chaos. Together, Mori, Mira, and Dewi arrive at the arena in time to get ready for the preliminary rounds. The regional qualifiers for the tournament's next phase, which begins in a month, will be decided by this event. Nanomachines attached to contestants' bodies enable the tournament staff to track their vital signs and assess their physical prowess. However, the contestants are instructed to start fighting by the announcer, but many of them are perplexed. They quickly come to the realization that the preliminary rounds will feature a battle royale between the many participants. As the fighting continues, the strongest combatants stand out from the rest of the group by using their superior fighting techniques. Among those who win the race are Mori, Dewi, and Mira. Meanwhile, Mori allegedly engaged in combat with the commissioner who hired him and injured him. The same commissioner sees Mori fight and asserts that everything is going as planned. The other commissioners permitted Gang Manseok, a notorious youngster, to join the conflict late. The commissioners believe he should be defeated due to his violent past. Gang joins the conflict and quickly gains control of those nearby, even intimidating them. As she engages Gang in combat, Mira uses her bare-handed moonlight sword-style no Deva to try and stop Gang. Despite her best efforts, Gang manages to fend off her attacks before Mori enters to take control of the conflict. However, Mori, Dewi, and Mira have made it through the first preliminary round. With the next round coming up, the three of them talk about their reasons for entering the tournament. Mira says she's hoping to find a strong man who can become the successor to her late father's moonlight sword style and rebuild her family's dojo. On the day of the tournament, one of the favorites to win the tournament, Gang Manseok, faces off against Tai Chi user Go Gamdo. The President of the United States questions the mysterious island that was crushed by a giant hand with a cross. Park Mujin enters the building as the President and Mujin interact. After finishing the first preliminary round, Mori, Dewi, and Mira are walking back home. Along the way, they talk about their reasons for entering the tournament. As Mori gets curious about Mira's sword, he accidentally drops it in the river. However, it causes slight anger in Mira as she slaps him and tells him to leave. Mira looks for her missing sword as her flashbacks show us how important moonlight sword style is to her. Mori comes back with a flashlight to help her search along with Dewi after bringing an even brighter light to make the search easy. A warm feeling of friendship grows within the trio. The second round for the God of High School starts. Whoever makes it to the end of the tournament will be granted permission to participate in the National God of High School Tournament. The second round is a bracket formed as participants go one-on-one with each other and make it to the next round. As participants are waiting in the waiting room, Tension happens between Go Gamdo and Gang Manseok when Gamdo told Manseok to leave Mori alone. Manseok lets out a quick kick toward Gamdo while he was off guard. It was a very close kick as Mori pulls Gamdo back from the fierce kick. The tournament starts as Mori, Daewoo, and Mira win their first round along with Sungchul and Mizin. A full fight is shown between Gamdo and Manseok. Gamdo gets badly injured as Manseok keeps beating him, as well as breaking his arms. Mori enters the ring abruptly, driven to stop Manseok. Manseok is successfully kicked out of the ring by Mori. Mori is prevented from continuing by the commissioners because he interfered with another match, which would have resulted in a penalty. Flashbacks of Manseok's past appear as a mysterious figure grants him power, but he is unable to use Chariot. However, Manseok attacks again and Mori rushes to fight him again, but this time he uses Renewal Taekwondo. After knocking Manseok down, Mori gets held down by Mujin as he returns back to Korea. A mysterious cult watches the tournament. Mori faces disqualification until Mujin recognizes Mori's grandfather, Jin Tae-jin. Mira defeats Ma Mizin, an American female wrestler who entered the tournament seeking men for her harem. Mira reveals her family martial art includes swordless style, which can slice flesh using only fingers. Mori is told he can remain if he beats one of the commissioners, though not the commissioner Mori wants. That night Mori eats a peach Mujin gave him and immediately vomits blood as it was not a normal peach. Daewoo's friend Sungtae switches to a more expensive medication, so Daewoo becomes even more determined. He duels Baek Sunchul who fights with a baseball bat. Despite painful damage to his organs, Daewoo destroys his bat and knocks Sunchul unconscious. Mori awakens and only just makes it to his fight. He is told he will win if he can push the commissioner to the floor. Then when the commissioner mocks him, he easily pushes him down. Mori is amazed his body feels more powerful, but the commissioner is so angry, he activates a supernatural power and summons a clown-like spirit to kill Mori, only stopping after being restrained by his fellow commissioners. Mujin happily confirms Mori is Taejin's tiger cub and swears to take possession of him. While walking home, Mira was approached by Oh Seong-jin, a successful businessman and martial artist, asked her to marry him out of nowhere. Even more shocking is that Mira agrees. Mira revealed early that her goal was to bring Moonlight Sword to prominence. Feeling responsible for ensuring that Moonlight Sword has a future, she sees marriage as being the only way to accomplish that. Daewoo feels too outside to intervene. However, Mori doesn't care. He believes that she's making a mistake and aims to stop her. Furthermore, he thinks correctly that Seong-jin is tricking Mira. At the altar, we get a flashback of Seong-jin with the mysterious cult. It's revealed that they want a holy sword that can rule the deity himself, and the hand that can draw out that power. This is the reason he wants to marry Mira. Elsewhere, Mori and Daewoo encounter Seong-jin's bodyguards. Daewoo mostly does the work and intercepts Seong-jin's attack. Mira remembers how she struggled with the burden her father left her. She remembers that he told her that your technique will make your life play out as you wish. Finally coming to her senses, she tells Seong-jin that she can't go through with it. He instantly flips out, revealing his samurai chariot. He attacks Mira with it, cutting her across the abdomen. She seems unharmed and defeats Seong-jin with her Moonlight Style No. 6. Despite this defeat, he escapes with the Moonlight Sword. However, Mira believes she no longer needs it. The last 5 minutes pivot dramatically to Daewoo. He watches as his friend dies. This dramatically changes his stoic personality to a more brutal one. First, he beats up the bullies from the store after they mock his friendship. Then he continues his brutality against Mira, shocking everyone including Mori. The fight is quick, with Daewoo hitting Mira in the wound she sustained earlier. As she bleeds, Daewoo continues to pummel her. The ref finally intervenes as Mira lies in a pool of blood. He walks past Mori and says, "See you in the finals." Mira is likely to be fine considering the healing of nanomachines, at least physically. Daewoo's friend, who was allegedly killed, is alive. He is actually just barely surviving. Daewoo's goal has always been to earn enough money to help his best friend, Woo Sung-tae, who has an incurable disease. Woo and Daewoo became friends after constantly fighting. Daewoo doesn't remember why they began fighting. The clash between Mori and Dewi takes center stage. First, Mori faces Bayan Jahit, the Brazilian jiu-jitsu user. Unsurprisingly, Mori defeats him easily. If I have an issue with the god of high school, it's the fact that too many of the fights aren't interesting. Despite Dewi's brutal beating of Mira, she doesn't seem to hold any grudges. It doesn't hurt that all her injuries will be healed, but she acknowledges that they simply don't know much about Dewi. The fight between Mori and Dewi starts as an all-out brawl. The battle is more evenly matched than I expected. Mori flashbacks to the aftermath of Dewi's battle with Mira and vows to make him pay. Mori attacks Dewi with his triple kick. After knocking him down, Mori reaches his hand out to Dewi. However, Dewi contends that he never considered Mira or Mori to be friends. Elsewhere, Wu dies. Dewi unleashes a barrage of attacks on Mori, while remembering the deal he struck with the administrator. First, he must overwhelmingly win the semifinals, then the finals. Park Mu-bong wants to see what Mori has to offer, and is manipulating Dewi to this end. However, when Park tells him that Wu died, he appears to lose his desire to fight. Park hopes to find out who he truly is by telling him. Suddenly, Mira interrupts the fight to give Dewi a letter from Wu. The contents of the letter renew Dewi's spirit. After a spirited and visually stunning battle, Mori wins with his blue dragon kick. A shadowy figure calls the tournament boring. Considering that Seoul was one of many tournaments, I wonder if we'll get to see the others. The fight between Dewi and Mori was as expected. However, the art style shifts dramatically towards the end. The thin ink outline was specifically confusing. It was difficult to distinguish from Dewi and Mori. While introducing new characters and upping the stakes, the Nox organization enters the picture, assassinating 2 members of the God of High School organization. Meanwhile, Park Mu-jin's calls for the elite group of fighters, the Six. We also get a glimpse of the power that Jin's grandfather possesses, as he defeats several men from Nox. The most interesting aspect of this episode was the reveal that Shim Bong-se, the ref, was blinded by the Moonlight Sword. It felt like he would become Mira's master, but he is quickly killed off-camera by a Nox assassin. The National High School Tournament begins with Group A. Our trio, Team Seoul, faces off against the team from North Chungcheong. The team format is simple. Each team will fight one-on-one, with the first team to reach 2 wins moving on. Jin fights first against Na. However, when he tried his new pressure points to strengthen his attacks, he paralyzed himself. He's defeated by Na. It's an unexpected and funny moment. This tournament is making it clear that we can't assume Jin will win every match. Elsewhere, the assassin from Nox, Drake McDonald, is gloating about killing the Judge Q. However, his arm is severed by Q's cherry-up Joker. Meanwhile, Dewi fights the 38-year-old high schooler, Jin Pumwang. He dominates Dewi with powerful attacks. He mastered doing physical labor. We get the backstory of the Chungcheong team. Anyway, Pumwang possesses a cherry-up named Thor's Hammer. However, Dewi destroys it with his blue azure dragon. The hammer vanishes and Pumwang faints, handing Dewi the win. Meanwhile, Judge Q and Drake fight with the former using a scythe. Q cuts off the other arm. However, Drake's cherry-up, a caterpillar, regenerates him. Judge Q isn't concerned and attacks. However, he's interrupted before he can make the death blow. The 2 intruders are called Priest Exley and Priest Saturn. Impatient, Q attacks with a deck of cards. Priest Exley develops wings and carries Priest Saturn to the air. Saturn then calls several hands from a shadow in the ground. However, manifesting his sight, Q begins cutting them. However, he eventually gets bound. Exley releases a sword and comes in for the final attack. However, he's rescued by Judge O, though he doesn't seem to need it. Elsewhere, the battle between Mira and Jang Jangmi. Both are armed with wooden swords. Jangmi releases that Mira is a superior sword user. She releases her chariot. We switch back to the fight between Judge O and Saturn, armed with a gun shaped like a cross that shoots pink lasers from pink teddy bears. Meanwhile, Judge O reveals his chariot is a dragon. After Q gains an advantage over Exley, we are swiftly returned to the fight between Mira and Jang. Using her light sword chariot, Jang prepares to win, but Mira uses Moonlight Sword style No. 23. Wind Willow and shatters Jang's sword, knocking her out. Team Seoul wins. We shift back to the battle between the judges and Priest. The judges seem to get the upper hand, forcing Priest, Exley, and Saturn to flee. Still present, Drake's head explodes. Park believes there's a mole in their organization since the administrator's addresses are secret. He's informed that Jin Taejin has gone missing. Meanwhile, the second match begins. Jegal Tak and Jian Jugok face off. Jegal Tak brutalizes Jian with his Megalivin Chariot that crushes the latter, leaving a pool of blood. Both Jian teammate and Daewoo interfere in the beatdown. Park refused to disqualify Jegal Tak because he may be the key. However, the second matchup begins between South Jala and South Chungcheong. Park Sung-ga faces off against Nam Gungdo. After discussing strategy with her team, Park KOs Nam with a powerful kick to his jaw. The most important member of the team is Park Ilpyo. Mira and Daewoo discussed Park and his team. It's revealed that Daewoo has been suspended due to interfering with the fight with Jegal Tak, the final fight between Park Ilpyo and Gwen Gai. However, Mori quickly notices a logo on the back of Park Ilpyo. After some rude trash talk from Jai, Park tells him that he can't win. He releases his aura, attempting to scare Gai. However, it fails. Park uses Takyan. He hurts Jai and decides to release his Chariot. Park continues to use his Takyan, dodging Gai's attacks. He strikes Jai in the face with a kick, knocking him out. Mori remembers the logo as being one like the military symbol his grandfather wore. On the way home, the trio discusses the tournament and the need for them to get stronger. Mori doesn't want anyone else's power. Of course, he's much stronger than Daewoo and Mira, so he may not need such power. However, Park and Mori meet, and after sparring quickly, Park mentions that he wears the jacket to honor Mori's grandfather. In flashbacks, Park remembers the death of his father and the abandonment by his mother. Feeling abandoned and alone, he meets Jin, who has a baby Mori strapped to his chest. He gives Park a book of Takyan secrets. That moment changed Park's life, and he feels that he owes him everything. Suddenly, Mori is attacked by Jegal. Park blocks it with his bare hand, drawing blood. After warning Mori, he leaves, promising not to hold back next time. The next day, Judge Q attacks Park Mujin for allowing Sim Bong's wife and kid to die. Although, Park easily defeats Q, leaving him with the bill for the destruction he's caused. We learn that Bong's wife and child are alive, having been replaced with the marionette by Judge P. Later, Q runs into Daewoo, who offers to cook for him in exchange for training. Mujin and the judges prepare for an attack by Nox. Mujin allows the commissioners to release their limiters and weed out the traitors. Both the Nox and Mujin mention God a lot. However, Mori remembers the last time he saw his grandfather. It was on his 6th birthday. Saddened, Mori tells his grandpa that he doesn't want any friends or needs any friends. His grandfather says that's ridiculous. After that, Mira and Daewoo arrive to celebrate with Mori. They eat, play, and share cake. It's a sweet moment, especially because Mori seems to be genuinely lonely. The following morning, Mori receives a letter with a picture of his grandfather in chains. Mori rushes to find his grandfather. The tournament has reached the quarterfinal stage. However, with Daewoo suspended and Mori missing, they're in trouble. Judge P tells Mira and Daewoo that the match will begin in 5 minutes, and if Mori doesn't show, they forfeit. Mira opens against Lee Marin, a dark-skinned bald guy that fights in a thong. Elsewhere, Mori reaches the abandoned warehouse where he locates his grandfather. Meanwhile, Mira struggles to land direct hits on Marin, due to the latter being covered in tanning oil. Marin attempts to suplex Mira, but she stops him by striking him in the stomach. Suddenly, Marin's teammate tosses Mira's sword. He and Mira clash, with Marin breaking her sword. He reveals the sword's true power. It's a metal sword that resembles a yin and yang symbol where the sword and hilt meet. Marin calls it the national treasure, Fengxian, and it's a weapon of the deity. Mira manages to get the sword from Marin, but it teleports back to him as he is the owner. Mori tries to wake his grandfather. However, it turns out that his grandpa was a fake, and it blows up. A mysterious man apologizes for killing Mori. He merely wanted to stop the key from awakening. Unfortunately, for him, Mori gets up. Marin stabs Mira through the stomach. Meanwhile, Daewoo battles against one of the South Gyeongsang team members. She's a weird fighter that wears an outfit similar to the one Bruce Lee wore in Game of Death. Meanwhile, their fight is cut short when Jegal Tak interferes. While fighting, Mori learns that the real Jeju-teen was killed by the Nox. Mori stands up and applies several pressure points that stop him from feeling pain. Meanwhile, Mira is up against it, but she refuses to lose. Before Marin hits her with a finishing blow, she hears the voice of the great hero, Lu Bu Fengshan. Determined to get stronger, he lends her his power, becoming a chariot. Marin responds with his own chariot, Kraken. Mira evades the attacks from Kraken, countering with Fang Tian Hua Jai. She wins, then collapses as Mori catches her. With Mori in attendance, he and Na begin their battle. Mori quickly dominates, then he attacks with his move Blue Dragon Kick. However, it's not enough, so he uses another original move, Twin Blue Dragon Kick. However, the key was revealed. Park Mu-jin and the Nox organization have been seeking this key. The key is supposed to have the power to challenge deity, so Park wants to use it, and Nox wants to destroy it. Park Ilpio is the key, a noble fighter that was inspired by Mori's grandfather. We discover that Ilpio wants to use his wish to heal his cousin that was left paralyzed by Jeagle. In flashbacks, we see that Jin's grandfather, Jin Tae-jin, told Ilpio to teach Mori a couple of things. He does just that when he and Jin fight in the semifinals. He starts off taunting Jin, critiquing his fighting style, and besting him in close combat. Mori overcomes each of these limits by using the techniques of Mira and Daewoo. Just when you think that Jin is going to get the comeback victory, it's his apparent defeat that triggers his ascension to the key. How will Ilpio handle being hunted? While all this was happening, when saw battles between Nox's Sang Mando and Park Mu-jin, saw the skills of the six-member Seo Haliang, accompanied by music, and witness a deity fall through a gate in the sky. All this was visually stunning while being action-packed. The drumming from Haliang's Taiko Drum Corps added to the atmosphere. However, this is where the tale of the Nine Tails was told. The fox spirit spent its early years in heaven and eventually attained power after a millennium of training. The deity began to be guarded by the Nine Tails, but as a result of his strength, the deity eventually started to fear him. It therefore decides to kill the fox. The Nine Tails were furious and used their power to obliterate half of heaven before fleeing to Earth and pledging to exact revenge. Jin and Ilpio are still at odds. Ilpio has increased his speed and strength with his new abilities. He starts to overpower Jin, but appears to be in pain from the change. After that, Jin learns from the fight that Chariuk isn't about borrowing someone else's power, because you're still using your mind and body to fight. Ilpio summons numerous firefoxes and engages in combat. Invoking his Chariuk, a thunder-wielding deity of some sort, Jin appears to be doing so. It's unclear who it is or if it belongs to the Chariuk race. In any case, Jin uses a whirlwind to vanquish Ilpio. Meanwhile, Park Mu-jin speculates that Mandiok is still preparing something in another place. Jian Jugok is this something. He transforms into a demonic-like creature that eats other people, gaining strength. In an effort to save Sunga and Ryu Hyanbok, Ilpio attacks Jin. Jeagle steps in and says he won't let Jin take his prey, Ilpio. Sunga loses a leg and Ryu loses an arm as Jeagle defeats Jin. Ilpio is appalled and irrational. When he lets go of his Chariuk, Jeagle is thrown out the window. Park Mu-jin declares that the god of high school is over in the meantime. However, Sang Mandiok calls upon a deity to end the world. The competition was cancelled by Park Mu-jin. The US government launches nuclear weapons towards Seoul out of concern that things are getting out of hand. The loss of innocent lives is disregarded in this act. Park Ilpio and Jeagle Tak are still fighting, with Jeagle consuming Ilpio and releasing the key. Things become chaotic when the most coveted key finally appears. The six deity's agents and Jin Mori all fumble around for the key. Jin comes out on top. All the children are teleported to a secure location by Park Mu-jin. Jin receives the key from Ilpio, who instructs him to keep Jeagle out of it. However, Jeagle shows up where Park Mu-jin teleported Jin and the other people. Daewoo and Mira decline to assist him when he requests to know where the key is. He chooses to murder them. Mira and Daewoo turn on their respective Chariuks. Jeagle defeats Mira and Daewoo off-screen. Jeagle and Jin argue. In the meantime, Jian Jezin of the Six teleports every Seoul resident away from peril. Jian uses his alchemy to destroy the nuclear weapons and turn them into a statue in an effort to exact revenge for his grandson. A meteor-like object that he also summons explodes. After being teleported back to Seoul, Jin and the others encounter the deceased deity. Jin gives the key to Tak, who then consumes it. Then, after being reborn, He develops from a baby to a man before gaining angelic wings and becoming a deity. Jeagle, meanwhile, turns into a deity. Only Jin Mori, Han Dewi, and Yu Mira stands as an opposition. First, Mira is attacked by Jeagle, who then throws her onto Dewi. Even though the two make a great effort, they ultimately fall short. A confrontation between Jin and Jeagle was always going to take place in this episode. However, Dewi, Mira, Ilpio, Sunga, and Jin explode in rage over the attack on their friends. Pressure points are used by him, but it's insufficient. Jin is being pursued by Jeagle, who is still using his Chariok and an energy spear. Jin becomes a deity after Dewi receives the blow, which causes Jin to ascend. My presumption was that Jin would get a Chariok like everyone else. The Monkey King, it turns out, is a deity. Meanwhile, Jin has been strongly influenced by Sun Wukong. He makes effective use of the Nyoibo, adjusting its size and shape as he swings it. Jin dominates Jeagle and strikes him with a terrible lightning strike. Jeagle changes into an evil creature and attacks Mira, Dewi, and Jin. Ilpio follows suit. Jin teams up with Mira, Dewi, and Ilpio for a group assault after they all activate their Charioks. Jeagle leaves a piece of the key behind before vanishing. Our trio got what they wanted. Jin wants to make the fighters' bodies whole again to recover Sight and Taisi's memories. Jin, Dewi, and Mira will travel to his home country. The key's keeper, Ilpio, must traverse the globe to gather every component. Finally, Jin's grandfather is still trapped by the Nox. At this point, we have reached the end of our video. Wait for us in the next part. If you liked the video, do not forget to press the like button and subscribe to the channel to get more new videos.